Intersection of the nonprofit and profit communities, making Kansas City a better place to live, work, and play. This Casey Care segment is brought to you by the Ewing Marion Kauffman Foundation, www.kauffman.org. My name is Ruth Bombigas, and I'm your host. More than 135 million households own a dog or a cat. Many here in Kansas City. Numbers swelled during the pandemic, and yet many more dogs and cats have been surrendered back into shelters awaiting forever homes. Some still wander streets. At the Pet Resource Center of Kansas City, the goal is to keep our furry friends with us. Started in 2002, the center has helped 500,000 animals in our area, providing services such as vaccinations, spay and neuter, emergency surgery, and much more. Founder and CEO Michelle Rivera has the joy of seeing many furry friends each day, and a lot of people friends too. She's with us to share the story of the center. Michelle, welcome. We're so happy to have you with us.
Thank you for having me on.
In prepping for the show, I was so interested in your approach. Your approach is different than other shelters and organizations in the metro area. Let's start there. What makes the center different? What's that approach?
So our approach is more pet retention, shelter intervention. We've heard and been preached for decades now to spay and neuter, spay and neuter, spay and neuter. But this approach is a little bit more innovative over the last decade to looking at why people relinquish pets and trying to work on those resources and education and services to people to help them keep their pets healthy and keep them in their homes and off the streets. We're not a shelter, but what we do is prevent animals from going to the shelter.
So much to dive into about everything that you do, but I want to go back to what inspired you to do this. You have a love for animals going way back.
Well, I do, and I don't. I was scared of dogs growing up. I was allergic to cats. I had been in an abusive relationship, and my therapist suggested animal therapy by volunteering at an animal shelter. I didn't know how I was going to do that since I was pretty terrified of dogs, but I ended up going to a local animal shelter. I got over my fear of dogs pretty quickly and really started to relate to some of those animals in the shelter that had been abused and neglected. I could relate to that, and I started to specialize in helping to rehabilitate those pets and build trust again. I left my corporate job and just fell in love with helping animals, helping on the business side, the entrepreneurship side. And I just dove in and started helping at the front desk until I moved all the way up to management. But in those years that I was there, I was unaware of just how serious pet overpopulation was. In fact, I was so unaware that I didn't even know our own shelter was killing 4,000 animals a year. I guess I just thought they were getting adopted when they weren't there. But after working there for a while, I found out, indeed, we were killing healthy, adoptable dogs, cats, puppies, and kittens. And after doing that for 4 years, I couldn't take it anymore. I knew there was a better solution. And so looking at the East and West Coast and the spay-neuter movement and how successful that can be in reducing pet overpopulation, I left the animal shelter and am the pioneer of bringing the spay-neuter movement here to Kansas City.
I want to get into that whole philosophy, but I want to go back a little bit. You stepped into a place where it was frightening for you. It was not a place like, oh, goody, I get to go see animals, furry little kitty cats and all of that. How did that organization kind of help you move through that? That's very traumatic.
There was a lot of animals that would stay to the back of their cages or to their runs, and I didn't know. I was not familiar with animal welfare at that time, and so I was told, those animals were scared, maybe abused, not treated well, and they were probably just going to have to build trust with people before they could even become adopted. And so that's what I worked on, is just standing there with animals or sitting in a run. I remember just sitting in a run with dogs with their backs to me, looking at the wall, so terrified, so scared and traumatized. But working with them every single day and building that trust was such a rewarding feeling. And it helped me as well, give me more purpose, and knew those animals needed me and I needed them. So that was absolute positive therapy for me to get over what I had gone through in the previous years.
How brave of you to do that.
Yeah, it was scary at first. I was terrified, but I could see the difference I was making with those animals, helping them through and getting them adopted. It just made me feel so good. And then I just wanted to do more. I wanted to find homes for all of those animals.
And I'm one of those believers who thinks that animal feels what the human feels as well. So
Absolutely.
there's a kind of a mutual healing that goes on that I think sometimes those that are not pet owners or not familiar with it don't see or understand that dynamic. We could have a whole conversation about that, and I don't want to get stuck there. So fast forward, you were seeing the spay neuter movement. It comes to Kansas City in when? Give us a little history.
So in 2002, I had left the animal shelter to start this program, and I was working out of a full service veterinary clinic, and sold my vision and my idea of being able to spay and neuter thousands of pets every year. I'm thinking a couple thousand a year. And so we use that practice to help build up a reputation and start a low cost spay neuter program. And then it just took off. A partnership with MU emerged from that, where students came to Kansas City to help us with that movement. And we were doing several thousand, but I started doing research and calculating out just how many we would need to do to actually make a difference. And it was a drop in the bucket. So we had to, explore bigger spaces and expand out to do thousands more. And by 2005, we were surpassing 5,000 pets a year spay neutering.
At what point then did you take that next step of creating a nonprofit and moving that forward?
So we were spay neutering, and yet I didn't feel it was really enough. And we were called Spay Neuter Kansas City back then. We've recently changed our name. But one of the biggest pivotal moments for me is realizing, it's great all these people are calling us, but what about the people that are not calling us? They need to have their pets spayed neutered. We have to reach them. So we started outreach, and that meant going out into the community, knocking on doors and talking to people about the benefits of spay and neutering, and then using a transport system to get those animals into the clinic. And then we saw another boost. But then it was a few years later, by 2008, I then worried, okay, we're spay neutering thousands of pets a year, and that's great. What if these people don't keep their pets? What if the millions of dollars we've invested, the time and the expenses that we've put into this program, and they don't keep their pets? Looking back at my own experiences with my pets and many cases that we came across of people, just how much they love their pets, we began to start to focus on, well, let's make sure they keep their pets. So we need to provide the resources that they might need. And we started with just the basics: food pantry, some dog houses, making sure that they could call us if they needed something. And that worked great. And then it just continued to evolve and evolve, where we've got to give people everything. We've got to give them access to affordable resources across the board, and overcome that stigma. If you can't afford a pet, you shouldn't have one. That was a big challenge for us, and an obstacle that we were trying to get through to our supporters. They didn't quite put two and two together and understand that people love their pets regardless of their financial means. And in fact, I've seen a lot of houseless and low-income people who depend on their pets. Their life is their pets. And so we are an organization that embraces that with compassion, non-judgment, and want to make sure that we're here for everybody, for all the resources they need to not break that bond between the animal and the human.
We're talking with Michelle Rivera. She is the Pet Resource Center of Kansas City. You mentioned you had recently gone through a name change. What was that process like, and why did you do it?
Yeah. So we've been called Spay Neuter Kansas City, and that's what we primarily focused on. But then adding all those outreach resources and then starting to do low-cost vaccinations, we heard over and over again, oh, you do that too? Oh, you do that too? And so we knew, spay neuter was not going to be enough. We had also seen such a reduction in pet overpopulation in Kansas City that by 2016, no more healthy adoptable pets were being killed in our area shelters. So technically, I started off, in a job or in a mission to put myself out of business, but it's really evolved past that, where spay neuter just isn't enough anymore. You've got to be able to provide a broad range of resources and support to your community for people to keep their pets healthy and keep them out of the shelters in the first place.
How did you come up on the name? Was it, I always like us to share with other nonprofit leaders, did you hire an outside firm? Was they pulling your team together? Was it an epiphany moment? How did you land on it? It says it all.
Yeah, it took years. We tested out a Families Better Together program, kind of tested that as our outreach program. It took years, and nothing we settled on just felt like, yeah, this is it. This is it. So we did go out to an outside marketing company who found us something within 30 days. They came in, they toured, they immersed themselves in our mission, and they came back with a few renderings and ideas. And when we saw the logo and Pet Resource Center of Kansas City, we fell in love. We just knew that was us. That was absolutely 100% us.
It clicked.
Yeah.
So let's share with our audience all the things that you do. You still do some spay and neuter.
Correct. Yeah.
And
we do spay neuter about 11,000 a year. And I'm amazed every time I go back into the spay neuter ward. Where are they coming from? They're still coming every single day, about 70 surgeries a day. And then we do a wellness vaccination clinic. This is a drive-up system that was invented during COVID. We have 6 lanes. It's real easy. You stay in your car with your pet. The pets are less stressed. It's a waiting process, but we serve over 100 pets a day in just vaccination and wellness. So, it's a busy clinic, but everybody gets a high standard of care and the most affordable vaccinations and wellness care for their pets. We just launched an open urgent care in June of 2022. Have seen 3,000 pets and expect that to double in the next year. We are expanding and opening, starting a capital campaign to expand that clinic. This is a clinic that accepts pretty much everything across the board: sick, injured, emergency surgery, trauma. It's the only affordable and low cost urgent care facility in Kansas City for pets. We started dentals to help keep pets healthy. That's one of the things that a lot of our lower income pet owners struggle with is you get an elderly pet and they end up with bad teeth. Mm-hmm. It's very, very expensive to get that done. So we focus on those urgent cases of elderly pets who might have some bad teeth. And then we focus also on wellness, keeping those teeth clean throughout so they don't end up with any kind of dental disease. We have an outreach program and provide dog houses, leashes, collars, pet food, litter, anything a family might need. It's a program where they can come in once a month or twice a month to pick up some of the resources that they might need just to help support them along. They might be struggling to feed their own family. We don't want them to relinquish their pet because they can't afford to feed their pet. So we have about 700 families on that program. We also, due to COVID, expanded and went mobile. So we have several mobile units and we are out in the community doing vaccinations. We have a partnership, we call them sit and serves, with several partners in the community, like Westlake, for instance. We'll be out at Westlake every Wednesday in a very different location of the city. We do curbside service for those that are shut in or without transportation, as well as doing drive-through clinics every other Saturday where we might see 150 to 200 pets in one single day. And then just recently working with K-State, we are on their curriculum and they send students in to help us on those mobile efforts and to help our houseless population.
How big is your team?
I think that's it. We have around 51 employees. I have 5 full-time veterinarians, 9 relief veterinarians, and we have over 150 volunteers.
Wow. That's just incredible. You mentioned this is affordable, so let's just put it right out there.
Yeah.
What is pricing like compared to, let's say, going to a regular vet?
Sure. There are some full service clinics in town that have very reasonable prices. Our prices range from $125 to $250 for a spay neuter, let's say. A very large dog is going to cost $250, $300 here. It's going to cost $600 to $800 possibly at a full service vet. Now, keep in mind this business model and this approach this is a price that is affordable to some, but not to everybody. So if what we do is encourage pet owners who can afford that to pay as much as they can towards the services, then that helps cover those who can't. So we don't turn anybody away. We use that financial approach, good customer service, value of services, and encourage people to pay as much as they can towards those services to help the next pet.
You mentioned those crucial volunteers. What role do they play for you?
We allow our volunteers to do pretty much anything here, and they are in the mornings, they're helping us run pets in and out of vehicles. We have volunteers trained to be technicians in recovery, in vaccination clinics. They go out on mobile clinics. They do a lot of preparation inside of our clinics. They get things ready for our surgery team or for food pantry. They help with administration. We have a lot of volunteers that come in and help with data entry, help with phones, just pretty much everything. A lot of volunteers like and enjoy our offsite clinics that are pretty much run by all volunteers, as well as going out on outreach and going door to door.
Remind us how many offsite clinics are those Wednesdays at a Westlake and things like that?
Or drive through in a large parking lot where like 150 to 200 cars may line up. And then we usually have them through in about 4 or 5 hours.
How do you get the word out about what you do and what you offer?
Mm-hmm. So our clientele is based about 80% on word of mouth. We work very, very hard on providing very good customer service and encourage people to tell others about us. That, along with some marketing into the communities, working with neighborhood associations, those drive-through clinics, social media, and we get a lot of referrals from other clinics, shelters, and those who are reaching the low-income population that might need help.
Because you're not sheltering these animals. You're keeping them with their owners. How do you deal with folks who, while they own a pet, may not really know how to care for that animal? Is there a component to your programming that can kind of help steward them along?
Yeah, absolutely. We actually love that. We occasionally get people that walk in and say, "Hey, I found this little kitten wandering down the street, or a puppy, or they took in a pet. I really don't know what to do. I don't know if I should keep. I don't even know if I can afford it." So our team will sit down with them and talk to them about all of the resources and the needs that pet might need. And many times, especially in our kittens and puppies, we have the ability to set them up with a crate and puppy food and everything they need for that first year of that puppy, making sure it gets its vaccinations and gets spayed and neutered early on so that they can continue to build that bond and keep that pet out of the shelter. But yeah, we love to help people and overcome their fear or hesitations of keeping a pet just because they don't think they can afford it. We always say, if you provide the love, we'll help you with everything else.
Oh, what a great phrase. I love that.
Yeah.
What is the best way for people to find out all this information about what you provide, or to volunteer, donate?
Yeah, a lot of our information is on our website, of course, at prckc.org. But we encourage walk-in. If you want to know more about our program and you just need to come in and talk to somebody, we're at 59th and Troost. You can come in or you can call. We have 7 call center representatives that can take your call and talk to you about all the resources that we have.
I want to go back again. You've got this huge breadth of services, spay, neuter, food pantry, on and on. How do you afford this? How do you do this?
So 80% of our programs, financial revenue comes from what people pay towards the services. So again, we empower all of our staff to work with everybody. We are a yes organization. Even if it's something we couldn't do, all of our team makes sure that we follow that person down to any referral that they get. So if we refer them out, we make sure that they get to the place that they need. And that would be for, something we can't do in oncology or serious orthopedic issues or something just out of our realm. But otherwise, we just work with every single person through the support of those who can pay for the services. So we tell a lot of people, we're open and supported because of you. So what you pay and the more you pay towards your pet is going to help other pets in the future. So it's with that we're able to recycle into, the I wouldn't call it profits, but because we're covering our expenses, we're able to cover everybody across the board. Now, if we were reliant on donations and grants, it might be a little bit more difficult to do that. I could see we'd be in a position where we might have to turn people away because we don't have the funds. But we are really blessed and thankful to those pet owners who are paying for the full cost prices because they are helping those who can't.
That's an interesting model. Many nonprofits don't operate that way. They're more a 50 mix, one or the other. I'm fascinated that you're 80%. So the other 20%, though, where does that come from?
That comes from donations and an annual event. We have an annual gala that brings in about $200,000. And then the rest comes from our donors. We do several appeals. And I think that's been one of our biggest challenges. It feels like we've had to educate the public and our support team kind of on a one-by-one case, because until people get in here and hear what we actually do, it's hard to comprehend and understand what we actually do. A lot of people assume we're a shelter because we're working with animals, or don't understand all of the resources that we provide, or that our mission is to actually keep those animals out of the shelter and in the homes with the owners who love them. I think we are also very blessed that we get to see, 40,000 pets a year. These pet owners love their pets, and we see that. And that's a unique experience when you look at anybody on the other side of animal welfare, our shelters, animal control. They come across, animals that are abused and neglected, owners who are wanting to give up their pets. And so you're constantly bombarded with that negative side of animal welfare, where you may not see the positive side. And that's where we get to celebrate and see that positive side. Of course, we see the bad side too, and have zero tolerance for that. Have to work with animal control on some cases. But I'd say, 99% of the animals and the pet owners we come across are very, very much love their pets and want to do the right thing.
How do you meet that challenge? You said it's really getting the public to understand what you do. Hopefully this webcast will help spread the word, but how are you trying to kind of change that narrative or knock down that wall?
Yeah. With our clients, it's been easy. Just word of mouth. People are telling others about our organization. We have great reviews, great customer service. But on the donor side of it, it's really things like this, your program right now, that will help get the word out, and giving people tours and talking to them just on how important our mission is to the future of keeping pet overpopulation under control and keeping pets in their homes. And, my goal is that shelters, their cages, their spaces, their shelter is meant for animals who truly need to be there, not the ones that don't. So if there is a resource, and I'm talking a pet deposit, behavioral, medical, whatever those things are, that's what we want to be here for, is to help those pet owners so they don't have to break that bond with their pet.
You talked about your pet food pantry. So are you going out then and purchasing food, or have you crafted arrangements with organizations?
Yeah,
to donate?
very fortunate to get in a steady stream of pet food donations from the general public, from other shelters. Amazon donates several pallets of food. And then we have other partners across the nation who may, swing through Kansas City and drop off a semi full of food. And then we also share that with rescue groups and others that need it.
We started our conversation about you sharing that you had been in a corporate job. Life had given you some changes that you made that pet connection to help with you. How has being someone from the corporate setting aided you now in being a nonprofit leader for a number of years in an area you didn't even ever think you'd probably be doing?
Well, I'm an entrepreneur at heart. A funny story, when I was in second grade, my teacher told my mom that I wanted to be a businesswoman and carry a briefcase. And I guess that's been my mission ever since. I've been in a lot of jobs where I've moved to the top or had to move on because I hit a wall. And then this passion of animals that I came to love at the shelter, and then the entrepreneurship side of me, it met both needs that I had at the time, where I really wanted to be for that shelter to be successful. And I wanted to be successful in making a difference in our community. My first dog came from that shelter, and she saved my life. She changed my life. And I think,
that's okay.
Remembering that she truly saved my life. I wouldn't be here right today without her. I know that feeling, so I can relate to people who might be struggling. And the last thing they need to do is worry about their pet. They need their pet when they come home. They might be having a hardship that we can't understand every day that they're dealing with, whether it's feeding their family, paying their bills, medical or health issues. And that pet might be the only thing that's keeping them alive. I've heard the story time and time again. I've been in households where that's the case. And so I want to be here and leave a legacy for everybody to have access to all the resources they need to keep their pets healthy and continue to keep that bond strong.
Only if they could talk to us, they do talk to us, but if only we could really totally understand what they were saying, I think we'd probably get a lot of wisdom. Don't you?
Yeah. We understand in our hearts. They're there for us. That it's an unconditional love. And I wish we could bottle up what we see here and give it to everybody, because it is amazing. Even yesterday, I was struggling a little bit. Yesterday, all it took was for me to go out into the lobby and sit with some clients and talk to them. And it makes a world of difference to hear from them how important we are here, how important my staff is to them and the services that we provide. And I don't get many opportunities like this because we're so busy to sit down and reflect on this. So thank you for this too. It's very nice to reflect back and remind what we're doing here, despite the crazy chaos and the busyness every day. It's nice to take it back and understand the bigger picture here of what we're doing.
And really see the mark that you're leaving in Kansas City for people, one person at a time. Mm-hmm. And that's, I think, the joy of working in the nonprofit community. I'm sure there are times that are frustrating for all of us, but It's that, it's that take that moment to breathe and look at what you're doing and what you're accomplishing. And you're accomplishing so much, Michelle. Yeah. We're so grateful that we've gotten to share this with our audience. It's the Pet Resource Center of Kansas City. Check them out. They're doing wonderful work. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for Casey Cares, Kansas City's nonprofit voice. We're produced by Charitable Communications, which is also a nonprofit. This Casey Cares segment was brought to you by the Ewing Marion Kaufman Foundation, www.kaufman.org. If you'd like to be a guest on Casey Cares or underwriting opportunities, go check out our website, KCCaresOnline.org, and spread the love. You'll find us on Facebook and Twitter at KC Cares Radio and on Instagram at KC Cares Online. Don't forget, you can catch us Saturday mornings on ESPN 1510 AM and 94.5 FM. That's at 8 a.m. Thanks for joining us on KC Cares.